Hello, my name is Rosalind Hayes, and I'm a private voice teacher in the Chester County area of Pennsylvania. And today I'm going to be talking to you about how to have more power in your voice. Because everyone usually wants to sing a little bit louder at some point in their voice experience. So the first thing that you want to know is that singing more powerfully does not mean pushing your voice or forcing the sound to come out. We really want to keep in mind that your voice is made up of three basic parts, as like every instrument out there. And every instrument has a power source, a vibrating mechanism, and a resonating system. And people oftentimes confuse the power source with your vocal cords. And in fact, that's not the case. Your power source is actually your lungs, and that's where the work is really going to happen. But we can give the illusion of a louder sound using our resonating systems, which is where we send the sound to in our body to give a more powerful, more robust sound. Your vocal cords, we all have different sizes, and you have what you have, but you can give it a more robust, more full sound by where you send that sound to, and also by building up your breath control and your stamina as a singer. So let me first show you the difference between, I'll show you first this type of sound that we don't want, a pushed sound. That's kind of screechy, kind of screamy. It's because we've really pushed the sound from the vocal cords rather than using my breath control and using my resonances in the way that I need to really produce a more robust sound. Over time, that can lead to vocal damage, so we really don't want to do that for a long period of time. One thing that we can do to create a more powerful sound is to increase our ability to belt. This is not necessarily an unhealthy thing to do, belting. Sometimes there's this idea that belting is inherently unhealthy. It's not, but it is like strength training for your voice. So you don't really want to do it for long stretches of time, especially when you're just starting and you're not really familiar with the technique. The thing that you need to know about belting is that there are two basic registers that everyone's voice has, and then men have a falsetto register as well. But there's your chest voice, which we use for our lower notes, and if I speak in that voice, I'll feel the sound down here in my chest. And there's the head voice, which I can send the sound up to when I want to sing higher pitches. And I want to make sure that my voice goes up here if I want to hit those notes a little bit more easily. And somewhere in between, in the middle of my register, my voice is going to want to switch to my head voice. And usually we'll want to let it happen, okay? But with belting, what we're doing is we're taking a little bit more chest resonance up into our higher registers than we normally would. Okay, so you want to think about kind of taking more of this bass, this low chest resonance with you as you go up. And if I do that, I get quite a powerful sound up there. That does not mean that I'm not using any head voice. It just means I'm using less than I normally would as I go up. And that will give me a more powerful, more robust sound. But you probably hear that my sound was still spinning on the top, and that's because I was still letting the air run through my sound, and I wasn't pushing from here. I was still using my breathing as a power source. So it's important when you start out with belting that you don't do it for more than a few minutes at a time, because you need to make sure that you're still relying on your proper breath control, breathing nice and low, and focusing on how you're releasing that air. The other way that I can give the illusion of more power in my sound is to use my forward resonance. The forward resonance is what helps me project my sound out into the room. Now I can have too much of that forward resonance and I get quite a harsh nasally sound. If I send my sound too much into this mask place, or I can really pull my sound back away from my forward resonance and I get a really dopey kind of sound. We want somewhere in the middle. We want a rounded space in the back of the throat so that it's not too harsh a sound, but we also need to use our forward resonance to help our sound project so it doesn't get stuck back here. Or even sitting on the vocal cords, as is more typical sometimes of younger women and people of the younger generation. So we need to make sure we keep our voice in our forward resonance. This is something you want to practice throughout the day when you're speaking as well, to make it a little bit easier. So I can send more of my sound into my forward resonance in certain parts of my range where I might need a little more volume. For example, as I go down into my lowest notes, the tendency will be for them to pull back into my throat and I will lose them. They get kind of a yawny sound. But if I really throw them into my forward resonance, the super low notes, it's not going to come across as very nasal because they're so low. So I can practice this by doing this exercise. D, 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 D. And the E and the duh really throw it into my forward resonance. If I need a little bit more of a reminder, I can even put my fingers here on my cheekbones. D, 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 D. And that helps me to hit that low E that would normally be way back here. Normally I would lose that sound. That helps me to throw it more forward. I can also use it in my passaggio, where my voice switches, to help me give more control over my voice, especially if I have a larger sound, which I do, and some of you may. That sound will likely want to pull back into the back of the throat as we reach the passaggio, and it goes a bit dopey, okay, away from the forward resonance. So the way that we counteract that is thinking about consciously sending it forward into the forward resonance without pushing our sound, okay? Again, we don't want to feel much work happening here. It's more like a visualization mentally. Brighten the vowel and send it more into my forward resonance. If I let it pull back, ya, ya, it gets a little bit breathy and faint. Okay, so I use my forward resonance to pull this down forward. So that's the two ways really that you can increase the power in your voice. The other way that you want to do it is really continue to work on your breath control, because that's the source of your power in your sound. And for more tips on that, you can listen to some of my earlier videos on how to improve breath control in your voice when singing. And you can also improve that by doing good old-fashioned cardiovascular exercise that will build up your stamina and your lung capacity as well, and your control. So forward resonance and chest resonance, belting, that can give more illusion of power in your voice. All right, thanks for watching.